Why would I give you that? She finally asked, voice trembling. A faint, sad smile touched his mouth. Because I didn't have any shoes for my boy. Not back then, the world stilled. What? She breathed. He exhaled slowly, as if letting out a memory that had been locked behind his ribs for too long. You didn't know my name at the time. I didn't know yours. We were just two people living across from each other, barely surviving. Her eyes widened, not with recognition, but with a strange ache, like her body remembered something her mind didn't. You lived near me? Right across the hallway, he said, in that old, run-down building on Carter Street, the one with the flickering hallway light that buzzed all night. A flash, faint, blurry, cut through her mind, a hallway light, a buzzing, a draft under a thin apartment door. Her head throbbed. He saw the flicker across her face. You remember? He asked gently. No, she whispered, swallowing hard. Not exactly. It's like a shadow, a feeling. That's enough, he said softly. It'll come back. The shoe trembled slightly in his grip as he continued. My son was barely 2. I was 24. Broke. Scared. Trying to pretend. I wasn't falling apart. She listened in frozen silence. We'd been out in the cold that night longer than we should have been, he said. I had just lost my second job. Rent was overdue, and when we came home his shoes were ruined, soaked through, torn, practically falling apart. He glanced down at the tiny shoe. I had nothing to replace them. With nothing, her chest tightened, and you knocked on my door without hesitation, he added quietly. No makeup. Shirt with a stain on the sleeve. Tired eyes. You looked like someone who'd been up for nights taking care of a baby who wouldn't stop crying. Her breath caught. You held this shoe out to me, he said. And you said, it's not much, but he can wear these tonight. My son grew out of them yesterday. Her heart dropped into her stomach. And then, he said, voice softening with something that almost sounded like awe, you apologized for not having anything nicer to give me. She blinked hard, vision blurring. I really did that. Every night for a month, he said, you brought something, bread soup, in an old plastic container. Blanket you said you didn't need anymore. Her hands flew to her mouth. You were the only reason my son didn't go to bed hungry. Half the nights that winter, he whispered. You carried your own child on your hip, balancing him while knocking on my door with your free hand. She squeezed her eyes shut, but the tears pushed through anyway. You told me you didn't have much, he continued, but you said that sometimes two struggling people can keep each other warm just by not letting each other fall. Her legs went weak, but I don't remember any of this, she whispered, her voice fractured. He stepped closer, slowly, gently, and placed the shoe in her trembling hands. That's not your fault, he said. No trauma survivor remembers everything clearly. You were dealing with your own storms. And then, everything with the company happened. Everything with the system, your disappearance, your son. She stared at the shoe resting in her palms like it was radioactive, like it might burn through her skin and straight into her memory. Her voice was small, frightened. So you became a CEO because, why? Because I gave your kid a pair of used baby shoes? He shook his head slowly. No, I became a CEO because your kindness changed the way I saw the world. Her breath stilled. I watched you survive things that should have broken you, he said, quietly. I watched you show up for your child every single day, even when your eyes said you were exhausted beyond saving. He paused. His throat moved as he swallowed something thick. And when you helped us, I realized something. She looked up at him, tears streaking her cheeks. What did you realize? He met her eyes, steady, raw, honest. That kindness is stronger than power, stronger than money, stronger than fear. Her breath trembled. That night you gave me the shoe, he said, was the night I decided I would build something better, something that couldn't destroy people like us, something that wouldn't Swallow families just because they were struggling. She shook her head slowly, overwhelmed. I don't understand, she whispered. Why come back now? Why help my son last night? He stepped closer, one careful inch at a time. Because you once helped my son live another day, he said softly. And last night, it was my turn. Her eyes widened as the truth finally pierced through everything else. You saved my baby because I saved yours? He nodded. You didn't ask for anything back then. You didn't even remember me. But I remembered you, her. Hands tightened around the small shoe. So I made a promise, he said quietly, that if the day ever came when you needed help, real help, I wouldn't hesitate, not for a second. Her knees buckled, and she sank into the couch as a sob shuddered out of her. He didn't touch her. He didn't interrupt. He just stood there, letting her break, because he understood breaking too well. When she finally looked up, her voice was barely a whisper. What happens now? And the calmness that washed over his face wasn't reassurance. It was preparation. Now, he said, we deal with the people who won't stop coming until they have what they want. Her breath caught. And we do it together. For a long moment, she didn't speak. She just stared at him, this man with calm eyes and a storm behind them, and tried to breathe around the fear rising in her chest. Together, the words sounded impossible, dangerous, hopeful, but mostly unreal. She wiped her face with the back of her sleeve, her hands trembling. What do you mean? She whispered. The people who won't stop coming. Her voice cracked halfway through. The CEO, Adam, exhaled slowly and sat down across from her. Not close enough to touch. Close enough to catch her if she fell. I didn't want to tell you last night, he said. You had a sick baby in your arms. You were barely holding it together. She swallowed, her heart thundering in her ears. Tell me now, she said. I can handle it. He held her gaze, searching for the truth in her eyes. You're strong, he murmured. You've always been strong. But what's coming isn't small. Her stomach twisted. What's coming? She pushed. He leaned his forearms onto his knees, his voice dropping into a low, steady seriousness, the kind that made her skin prickle. There's a group, he said. A very powerful group. Investors, politicians, people with money that could buy a city block before breakfast. Her heart stuttered. What does that have to do with me? He hesitated for the first time. Flicker barely a second, but she caught it, like spotting a crack in steel. They've been watching you for a long time, he said quietly. The world tilted. She felt it, physically, like the floor dropped, half an inch beneath her feet. Watching me? She echoed, barely breathing. Why? I'm nobody. Adam shook his head. You're not nobody to them. Cold rushed through her veins. I don't understand. You will, he said. And I'm going to explain everything, but not all at once. Not here. The lights above them hummed softly, the only sound in the room. Even the air felt heavy, like the walls themselves were waiting for the truth to come out. You remember the company that fired you? Adam asked, her stomach clenched. Yeah, she said bitterly. How could I forget? They tossed me out like trash when I needed the job most. They didn't fire you because you were late, he said. They fired you because someone told them to. She froze. That's not possible. No one even knows me. No one knew you, Adam corrected, until you walked into the wrong office at the wrong time. Her hands tightened on her knees. I didn't walk into any office. You did, he said gently. You just don't remember. Her breath hitched. That same buzzing headache pulsed behind her eyes, the same one she'd felt when he talked about Carter Street, and about the hallway and about the shoe. What are you talking about? She whispered. Adam looked down, running a thumb along the edge of his watch. For a moment, he looked younger, tired. It wasn't your fault, he said softly. You were delivering paperwork for a supervisor. You walked past a conference room, and you saw something you shouldn't have seen. Her pulse hammered at her throat. What? Signatures, he said quietly. Documents. Money being moved under the table. Human lives being treated like numbers. I didn't see anything, she argued, shaking her head. I don't remember. They erased that memory, he said gently. They're good at that, better than anyone knows. Her whole body went cold. Erased, she repeated numbly. Yes, that's impossible. I used to think so too, he murmured. Silence stretched. Tense. Fragile. She gripped the couch cushion beside her. Knuckles white. You're telling me someone wiped my memory? Not all of it, he corrected. Just the parts that could expose them. Her breaths turned shallow. That's why your past feels blurry, he continued. That's why you can't remember helping me. Why you can't remember the last night in that building. Why you can't remember what happened at that company before they fired you. Her heart pounded painfully. He leaned forward, lowering his voice even more. And that's why they've been watching you. Because if those memories ever come back, if even one of them returns, they'll lose everything. A chill ran down her spine. So what are they going to do? She whispered. Adam's jaw tightened. What powerful people always do, he said. They'll try to make the problem disappear. Her breath froze. I'm the problem, she said, the realization hitting like a punch to the chest. His eyes softened, but his voice didn't. Yes, he said, but you're not alone anymore. The room was silent except for the faint ticking of a clock on the wall. How long have you known? She asked. That they were watching you? He inhaled slowly. Years. Her hands shook violently. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because I didn't know how deep it went, he said. And because I didn't want to drag you into my world unless I had no choice. She stared at him, her voice barely a whisper. And now you have no choice? He nodded once. Last night changed everything, he said, when they saw the hospital security footage, when they realized you had help. They'll assume you're remembering more than you are, her chest tightened painfully, and they'll come after you, he said, with lawyers, with threats, maybe worse. Her heart felt like it split. And my baby? She asked, voice cracking. His answer was immediate. I won't let anyone touch him. Her throat closed. You can't promise that, she whispered. He met her eyes. Steady, unwavering, deadly serious. I just did. The night after the clinic visit, Maya thought things would slow down. But life didn't work that way for her. Bills were still stacked on the table. The only pain meds she could afford were already half finished, and Liam's fever, though better, kept dipping up and down, like a broken signal. She tried to sleep, but something felt off, not danger, not fear, something deeper, like the world was shifting under her, preparing for something she couldn't see yet. Around 2:30 a.m., Maya woke up to a sound. Not crying, not coughing, a sound she hadn't heard in her neighborhood in years. An engine, smooth, expensive, too quiet to belong on her street. She sat up slowly. The headlights slid across her bedroom like ghosts brushing past the walls. One car, then a second, and then a third. No one with that kind of money ever came here unless they were lost, or trouble, or both. Her heart tripped in her chest. She checked on Liam, still asleep, breathing softly, and then leaned toward the window. The cars parked perfectly, professionally, like they'd rehearsed it. The doors opened in sync. Men in dark coats stepped out, calm, deliberate, not even glancing. Around, something about the way they moved made her skin tighten. These weren't random people, these weren't neighbors, and these definitely weren't the kind of men who asked for directions. She pressed a hand to her mouth. What now? Then a knock, not loud, not frantic, just final, like someone who didn't need to knock twice. Maya's breath stilled. For a moment, she swore her whole building held its breath with her. The hallway light flickered, she whispered to herself. Who the hell shows up at 2:30 a.m. in cars like that? And the sinking thought hit her. This had something to do with last night. With Liam, with whoever paid that hospital bill. Her pulse hammered. But she stepped toward the door anyway. Because that's what single moms do. They walk toward the fear, not away from it. Maya stood at the door long enough for doubt to start whispering all the wrong things. What? If they're here for something else? What if they're not here to help? What if I made a mistake, messaging that number? Her fingers hovered over the lock. Her heartbeat pulsed in her palms, in her throat, everywhere. Another knock, still calm, still controlled. But heavier now. Like the person behind it understood exactly how much fear lived on the other side. Maya swallowed hard and finally opened the door. Just 2 inches. Cold air rushed in, and standing in the hallway was a man she didn't recognize. Tall, sharp suit, clean cut, the type of guy who looked like he belonged in a boardroom, not a broken-down apartment building that still had rust on the stair rails. His eyes scanned her, briefly, professionally, then softened, just a fraction. Miss Maya? His voice was low, steady. Too steady. She nodded, gripping the door tighter. We received your message, he said. That made her freeze. Received? Who even talks like that? And we're here to escort your son, the man continued, in case his fever spikes again. Her stomach twisted. She hadn't told them her name. She hadn't told them her address, and she definitely hadn't told them about the fever shifting. Again, how do you know? She started. But before she could finish, the man stepped aside, and behind him, the night pressed in with a line of black cars, quiet engines still humming like the city was holding its breath. Inside one of the cars, she saw something. A silhouette. Someone sitting in the back seat. Still. Watching. Her pulse skittered painfully. Who sent you? She whispered. The suited man didn't answer. Instead, he simply said, he'd like to speak with you. That one word, he hit somewhere between her ribs. Maya shook her head, voice cracking slightly. No, listen. I don't know who you think I am. I just wanted help for my son. I didn't ask for all of this. The man's expression didn't shift. Not cold, not warm, just certain. You helped him, he said quietly. Years ago. And he doesn't forget what was done for him. Maya felt a cold rush run down her spine. I helped him? Who, when? She helped a lot of people back then. Neighbors, kids, old folks who couldn't walk to the store, families with no dinner. But she couldn't attach a face to this. This level of power. The man nodded once, signaling toward the car. He's been waiting. A long time to repay that kindness. Maya's throat tightened. None of this felt real. None of it felt possible. She took a small step back. I don't know. Him, she whispered, from the car. The back door opened, slowly, deliberately, like a scene pulled straight, from the part of life she was never supposed to touch. Polished shoe stepped out, the hem of a tailored coat a glimpse of a wristwatch that probably cost more than her entire building, the key. Figure rose from the shadows, tall, composed, expensive in every way you could measure a person. And then she heard his voice, soft, low, almost familiar. Maya. Her breath vanished, because she knew that voice, not from this world of wealth, but from way before it. Yet she couldn't place it. Not yet. He stepped closer, and the streetlight hit his face. Her mouth fell open. No way, she whispered. The man smiled. Sad, quiet, nostalgic. You really don't recognize me, do you? Maya shook her head, speechless. He exhaled sharply, almost laughing under his breath. It's all right, he said, quietly. Most people don't remember the ones they saved. Then he looked at her. The way someone looks at a miracle they weren't expecting to find again. But I remember you. Maya felt her fingers tighten around the doorframe. Her knees went weak, not from fear this time, but from the overwhelming sense that her entire past had just stepped out of that black car and stood on her broken sidewalk. The man, clean suit, perfect posture, calm like he owned the silence around him, took one slow step closer, not threatening, not demanding, just familiar in a way that made her chest ache. He looked older now, sharper jawline, steadier eyes. But there was something in those eyes, something she'd seen before in a very different neighborhood, under very different circumstances. He shoved his hands in his coat pockets and tilted his head. "You used to leave a plate outside my door," he said quietly. "Every night, even when you barely had enough for yourself." Maya's heart stopped. Her breath caught in her throat as images hit her. Dim hallways, chipped paint on old doors, the sound of hungry kids trying not to cry. A boy, skinny, tired, carrying the weight of a whole house on his shoulders before he even turned 18. A boy who lived 2 doors down, who always tried to hide how bad it was, who always said, "We're fine," with a smile that never reached his eyes. Her lips parted in disbelief. "No," she whispered. You can't be—" He nodded once. "Yeah," he said, softly. "It's me." Her world felt like it tilted sideways. She swallowed. "You were just a kid. So, were you?" he replied. Maya stared at him, stunned. The man she remembered had worn thrift store, sneakers and hand-me-down hoodies. The man in front of her wore a watch she had only seen on magazine covers at grocery stores. "You grew up?" she breathed. He gave a half smile. "Had to?" "You're a CEO?" she asked, still trying to catch up. Something like that. His tone was light, but she heard the truth underneath. He was someone powerful now. Very powerful. And he had shown up at her doorstep. Her throat tightened again. "But how did you find me? How did you know I—" He cut her off gently. "You texted an old number," he said. "One I never got rid of." Maya blinked in shock. The number she messaged, the one she found in that decade-old notebook. She thought it belonged to a charity group that used to help in her old neighborhood. "You kept it?" she whispered. He nodded. "I kept anything connected to the people who kept me alive." Her chest ached. He took another tiny step forward, still careful, still giving her space. "Look," he said, voice dipping warmer, steadier. "I didn't come here to scare you. I came because you called for help. And because—" He hesitated, searching for the right words. "Because I owe you more than I can ever repay." Maya shook her head instantly. No, you don't owe me anything. I didn't help you for—" "I know," he said gently. "That's why it mattered." Her eyes stung. He looked at her son then, tiny, fragile, burning with fever in her arms. His expression shifted, determination replacing nostalgia. "Maya, he needs a hospital. Now." His voice was firm but not unkind. "No waiting rooms. No questions. My team is ready." She held her son a little closer. Another wave of fear hit her. Not for herself, not for the man in front of her, but for the truth buried behind all of this. "Why now?" she asked softly. "Why, after all these years?" He drew in a breath, then said the words that made the night feel heavier. "Because when the world forgot me—" "You didn't. And I don't forget people who save my family." Her heartbeat stumbled. "Your family?" she echoed slowly. "I didn't—" he interrupted, eyes locked on hers. "Maya, you don't know the whole story." Her pulse jumped. Behind him, the black cars hummed quietly, headlights glowing like waiting eyes. A cold wind pushed through the street. The night felt tighter, questions pressing down from every angle. "What story?" she whispered. He looked at her son again, then back at her. "The one I should have told you years ago." He held out his hand, not grabbing, not pulling, just offering. "Come with me," he said. "You deserve the truth, and that." That was the moment Maya realized this wasn't just about her son anymore. It was about something bigger, older, heavier, something that started long before tonight. Maya didn't move right. Away. Her feet felt glued to the ground, like the pavement itself had wrapped around her ankles. The man, this CEO she apparently once fed from her own kitchen, was standing there with his hand out, asking her to step into a night that already felt too big, too fast, too unreal. Her son whimpered softly in her arms. His tiny fingers curled weakly into the fabric of her shirt. That was what broke the freeze. Maya swallowed hard, lifted her chin, and stepped forward, just enough to let the warmth of the car's headlights touch her. "Fine," she whispered. "We'll go. But you need to tell me everything. No more puzzles. No more half answers." He nodded once, almost relieved. "You'll get the truth. All of it." A member of his team, sharp suit, calm face, opened the back door of the nearest SUV. Maya hesitated again, not because she didn't trust what would happen next, but because she didn't understand why she trusted him at all. He must have seen it, because he stepped closer, dropping his voice lower. "Maya," he said, "I won't let anything happen to you. Or him. Not tonight. Not ever again. Again." That word sat heavy on her chest. She slid into the back seat, cradling her son. The leather was warm, soft in a way she'd only ever seen on TV. He sat beside her, giving her space but close enough that the air felt different. The door shut with a soft, expensive thump, like the sound of a world sealing off from the outside. The car pulled away, gliding through the dark streets like it owned them. Maya stared out the window, watching streetlights smear into gold streaks. For a minute, neither of them spoke. The only sound was her son's shallow breathing. Then, quietly, "You said I don't know the whole story," she began. Her voice was steady, but inside she felt like a storm. He looked down at his hands, not confident, not polished, just human. "There are things I never told you," he said softly. "Things I couldn't tell anyone. Not back then." She frowned. "You were a kid." "Yeah," he said with a hollow laugh. "A kid who learned too early that asking for help was dangerous." Maya blinked. "What do you mean?" He took a breath, long and slow. "You remember my dad?" he asked. Her stomach tightened. The man. The yelling. The nights when the whole building went quiet because everyone was listening, praying he wouldn't hit the kids again. "I remember," she whispered. "My dad wasn't just a drunk," he said. "He owed money. To people who don't forget debts. People worse than him." Maya felt a chill crawl up her spine. "That night you knocked on our door," he continued. "With those leftovers you pretended were too much for you and your mom." A small smile touched his lips. "You probably saved my life." She swallowed. "I didn't do anything special." "You did more than you think," he said. "You gave us food, but you also gave me proof that not everyone in that neighborhood wanted to hurt us." His voice quieted. "And after my dad disappeared, those people came looking. For him, for us, for anyone connected to him." Maya's heartbeat jumped. "You mean?" "Yeah," he nodded. "I left. I ran, I hid. For years." She stared at him, eyes wide. "And all that time," he finished, voice cracking just barely, "the only person I remembered as safe was you." The car fell into a thick silence. Maya pressed her palm to her son's forehead. He felt a little cooler now, but still too warm. "Why didn't you ever come back?" she whispered. He exhaled. "I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But when I finally got on my feet, when I finally became someone who could protect the people I cared about." His jaw tightened. "You were gone," Maya felt her breath catch. "My mom moved us. She said. Fast. Suddenly. She said someone asked about our building, and she didn't like the feeling." For a moment, their eyes locked, and both of them realized the truth at the same time. They had been running from the same shadows, without ever knowing it. The car slowed as they approached the hospital, a private wing glowing white and modern in the middle of the sleeping city. Lights reflected across his face as he looked at Maya's son. "You saved me?" "Once," he said quietly. "It's my turn now." Before she could respond, the car door opened. and a team of doctors rushed forward. Maya held her son tighter, heart pounding as the night split open with lights and urgency. She stepped out, and the CEO walked beside her like a shield she didn't ask for but suddenly needed. Maya followed the team through the hospital's gleaming halls. Every step echoed, sharp, clean, like the world outside had disappeared and left her alone with fear and hope bundled tightly in her arms. Her son's tiny whimpers pulled at her chest. His small body was still weak, but stable enough to cling to her. A nurse approached. "Mom, we'll take him right in. You can follow in a few minutes," she said gently. Maya nodded, trying to swallow the lump in her throat. The CEO stayed by her side, silent, composed, a steady presence amid chaos. She still couldn't believe he was here, or that he remembered her, or that he had the power to do this. Yet somehow, the old connection made it feel less unreal, almost like destiny. As the team wheeled Liam away, Maya hesitated. "Wait, why are you really here?" she asked, voice low. "Why all this? You don't even know me." "Not really, and I didn't even know you needed help back then." He looked at her, his eyes softening in the harsh fluorescent light. "I told you before, you saved me. And sometimes, when someone saves you, you can't forget it. You carry it with you. And when the chance comes to pay it forward, you take it." Maya's chest tightened. It was almost too much to comprehend. Her small act of kindness from years ago had grown into something she couldn't even imagine. The nurse returned. "He's stable for now, but the treatment will take time. You can see him now briefly," she said. Maya hurried to Liam's side, brushing the damp hair from his forehead. Tears threatened to spill. "Mommy's here," she whispered. He stirred slightly, eyes fluttering open. She held him closer, and in that instant, the world outside the hospital vanished. Then she felt it, a presence. The CEO stood behind her, quietly observing. No pretense, just waiting. Maya finally turned to him. Why all of this?" she asked again, more sharply. "Why risk everything in the middle of the night to help a stranger?" He smiled faintly. "Stranger? No, Maya, you've never been a stranger. You were the one constant in a world that tried to teach me that nobody cared. I owe you this, and more." Her breath hitched. She wanted to ask more questions. She wanted to understand why now. Why her? Why him? But the truth hovered in the air like a secret too heavy to name. "Come with me," he said quietly. "After he's better. You deserve to know everything." Maya's hands trembled, clutching Liam. I don't even know who you are anymore." He exhaled softly, almost like a confession. "Maybe it's easier if I show you." For the first time that night, Maya felt a flicker of hope mixed with confusion. Somehow, amidst the fear and the unknown, she trusted him. Because some debts aren't measured in money, some acts of kindness aren't measured in time. And some people just don't forget. Maya followed the CEO down a quieter corridor, leaving Liam under the care of nurses. Her heart still raced. Her mind was a storm of questions she didn't know how to ask. "Show me," she finally whispered. "Tell me everything. Who are you? Why me? Why now?" He smiled faintly, hands in his pockets, walking with that calm, measured pace that made her feel small and tentative in the best and worst ways. 2 years ago, he began, voice low, steady, almost reverent. "I was just a kid in the same neighborhood you lived in, struggling, barely scraping by. My mom had passed, my dad, well, he was gone too. I was alone, scared, hungry, and ashamed that I couldn't provide for my little brother." Maya froze. Her mind flashed to late nights. She remembered him. A skinny boy, barely tall enough to peek over the fence, always polite, always smiling despite everything. "I didn't know where my next meal was coming from," he continued. "And every night you showed up with food. Leftover scraps you could barely afford yourself. You didn't ask for anything. You didn't lecture me. You just gave. You gave hope when I had none." Maya's eyes widened. She swallowed hard. I remember," she whispered. But I never thought. I didn't know it mattered that much. He stopped walking, turning slightly to meet her gaze. It mattered. More than you can imagine. That kindness kept me alive. And when I finally got out, when I built my life, I never forgot. Maya's chest tightened. Her son, sick and vulnerable just a floor below, had just been saved by the boy she fed. The boy she barely remembered. You came back. For Liam, she said, voice trembling. Because of what I did for you? He nodded once. Because you showed me what it meant to care. Because you gave me hope. And hope, Maya, can change everything. Her fingers clutched the edge of the handrail.